And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
I'll ask about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's talk
seriously.
about basketball.
Yeah.
Come on now.
What do you think of just how you all were able to pull away in the second half, Caitlin, in particular?
We're going to the Commissioner Cup Championship.
Let's
That's
go!
pretty exciting. Y'all want to talk about that? Let's talk about that.
How does a player become a league-wide hero? Not for a game-winning shot, but for a flagrant foul. That's exactly what happened to Sophie Cunningham, the teammate who finally did what the WNBA and its officials refused to do: protect Caitlin Clark. Her decision to take matters into her own hands didn't just get her ejected from a game. It blew the lid off the league's darkest secret. It exposed a system that was happy to cash in on its golden goose while letting her get treated like a human punching bag. This is the story of how one player's loyalty revealed an entire league's failure.
All right, enough is enough. You know, at some point, the line gets crossed too often where something needs to be done and things need to be corrected. And that is certainly the case with the way things around Caitlin Clark are officiated. This is a constant problem now. You know, it is something that since the beginning, I've kind of like backed off on, because physical play is a part of sports. You know, going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, the referees need to do their jobs. They need to do their jobs, blow the whistle, and officiate properly.
To understand the crisis, you must first understand the stakes. Caitlin Clark wasn't just another #1 draft pick. She was a cultural phenomenon, a walking, breathing stimulus package for a league that desperately needed one. Before she even played her first professional game, her presence was a tidal wave, lifting the entire WNBA. TV ratings didn't just climb, they shattered records, with viewership numbers doubling and tripling overnight.
I don't understand why this is all happening to Caitlin Clark, who's brought so much attention to the league, frankly, revenue and viewership numbers. She single-handedly has made the broadcast rights go up, and I'm not saying she's the only one who did it. Yes, all of the women that came before her matter too, but the WNBA is doing better because Caitlin Clark is in it now. It is one of the reasons they're doing better, and a rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody in the WNBA is better off.
Arenas that once had rows of empty seats were suddenly selling out, with visiting teams forced to move games to larger NBA stadiums just to accommodate the unprecedented demand of the Caitlin Clark effect. She was a golden goose, single-handedly dragging the league into the mainstream spotlight and printing money for everyone involved. For the first time in its 27-year history, the WNBA was front-page news, a topic of daily debate on major sports networks. It was all because of one player. You would think the league would wrap its most valuable asset in bubble wrap. Instead, they let the wolves out.
Courtney, if somebody ever tackles you like that,
nobody will ever tackle me like that. They would play with Bridget like that, and then we would have to like take it up there.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying that.
I ain't nobody would ever tell me like
if that ever happens, you better crash out behind me, because I'm crashing out behind you. We can share the same jail cell. Yeah, bro.
Oh my gosh, bro. Our team would crash, bro, because they would play with somebody that's like not even like.
With great light comes a long, dark shadow. The celebratory narrative surrounding Clark's arrival quickly shifted to one of deep concern. The on-court treatment she received went far beyond the typical welcome to the league physicality. It felt personal, charged with a resentment that was ugly and unprofessional. The most glaring red flag came early on, a moment that sent shockwaves through the sports world. During a game against the Chicago Sky, player Chennedy Carter delivered a vicious blindside shoulder check to Clark while the ball was completely out of play.
But tonight, she is one of the best teammates in the world. After the entire league has been after Caitlin Clark for so long, and after tonight getting poked in the eye and body shoved by the Connecticut Sun, Sophie Cunningham had finally had enough and took it into her own hands.
Sheldon comes up with the steal. Got his own fancy miss. And here we got another. break this year as J.C. Sheldon.
It wasn't a basketball play, it was a blatant cheap shot, an act of aggression with no purpose other than to intimidate or injure. In real time, the officials disgracefully called it a common foul. It was only after a storm of public outrage that the league upgraded it to a flagrant one. The world saw it for what it was, a message. A message that the league's new star had a target on her back, and the referees were not going to protect her. That incident wasn't an exception. It was the new rule.
The WNBA is not a vertical league. Their players can't jump over each other to score like the NBA. It's a horizontal chippy league. And you didn't watch the NBA for the last 10 to 12 years. It has always been physical and always been chippy. You get into a lot of collisions because there's no John Morant here. There's no Ant Edwards. They don't jump over. It's a horizontal physical league. And Caitlin Clark now is like kerosene to the physicality flame. So you have physicality in this league, and now you get this flashy player, and they don't know how to officiate her, they don't know how to defend her.
The situation finally reached its boiling point during a heated matchup against the Connecticut Sun. The aggression was palpable from the opening tip, but it escalated into something far more sinister. In the third quarter, the hostility became undeniable. Clark was poked directly in the eye by J.C. Sheldon. As she reeled back in pain, visibly disoriented, another player, Marina Mabrey, seized the opportunity. She shoved Clark with both hands, sending her stumbling to the ground. It was a 1-2 punch of blatant aggression, happening right in front of the officials.
What's going on with the chippiness there, and what explanation were you given for the tech that you got?
I'll take the official questions. There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete and they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition. So I started talking to the officials in the first quarter, and we knew this was going to happen. You could tell it was going to happen. So they got to get control of it. They got to be better. They got to be better.
Their response was a masterclass in incompetence. A few meaningless technical fouls were handed out, but the instigators remained in the game, their message successfully delivered without any real consequence. The refs had completely lost control, and the game was devolving from a professional contest into a street fight. The final straw had been placed, and the back of the camel was about to break.
Sophie Cunningham continues to be the WNBA's shining new star. She's Caitlin Clark's sidekick at this point. Of course, Sophie Cunningham, man, what a meteoric rise. All it took was a little bit of rough justice on the court, sticking up for Caitlin Clark after she was poked in the eye by J.C. Sheldon of the Connecticut Sun and then pushed to the ground by the Sun's Marina Mabrey. Everybody got on board, and it was Sophie Cunningham mania happening around the country.
But someone on the Indiana Fever bench was watching, and she had seen enough. Sophie Cunningham, a tough, no-nonsense veteran, watched her teammate get brutalized. She saw the referees swallow their whistles and abdicate their most basic responsibility, player safety, and she decided to take matters into her own hands. With less than a minute left in the game, on a fast break, Cunningham delivered a hard, intentional foul on J.C. Sheldon, wrapping her up and taking her to the ground. It wasn't a reckless act of violence. It was a calculated response.
The officiating in this league makes the NFL officials look good. That is crazy that entire sentence just rolled out of my mouth. Because the NFL officials are so bad that a lot of people think the game is rigged or scripted. By the way, I've seen that about the WNBA as of late too. Like, are the officials trying to navigate games in certain directions? We got to remember there's things like prop betting, and can we keep somebody, hey, I put $2,000 over on Caitlin Clark not being able to score 25 points tonight. The payoff on that is $10,000.
It was a message sent back to the Sun and to the entire league. If the officials won't do their job, we will police this ourselves. Consequences be donned. Cunningham was immediately ejected, but as she walked off the court, she had unknowingly become a folk hero. What happened next would prove the fans were just as fed up as she was.
Well, I asked about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
talk
seriously.
about basketball.
Yeah.
Come on now.
What do you think of just how you all were able to pull away in the second half, Caitlin?
We're going to the Commissioner Cup Championship.
Let's
That's
go!
pretty exciting. Y'all want to talk about that? Let's talk about that.
The public response was immediate, overwhelming, and historic. Sophie Cunningham became the people's champion overnight. Before that game, she was a respected role player with a modest social media following. Within days of her ejection, her TikTok following exploded from just over 400,000 to over 1.2 million. Her Instagram gained nearly 300,000 new followers. Her jersey, which was previously hard to find, began selling out as demand skyrocketed. Fans weren't celebrating a dirty play, they were celebrating justice.
To have people kind of go at her because she's a trash talker. Okay, if that is the logic. But the media are now saying Caitlin Clark brings everything on herself. And by the way, Caitlin Clark, if you want to say JC Sheldon getting in her face and like everything until the eye gouge, nobody brings eye gouges on themselves. This is the same as, she brings it on herself with the push-off. Just call the hand check and the push-off doesn't happen. Like, do we not understand the sport of basketball?
They finally saw someone with the courage to have Clark's back, to fight fire with fire when the league and its officials refused to act. The message from the public was undeniable. They were tired of watching the sport's biggest star get bullied while the authorities looked the other way. They wanted an enforcer, and in Sophie Cunningham, they had found their champion.
7K to more than 800K TikTok followers. When I tell you, man, TikTok truly do be showing love, man. TikTok truly do be showing love. But when I say, hey, Sophie, look, I wasn't familiar with your game, especially that little savviness, that tenacity that you got. But shawty, I'm a fan.
Cunningham's actions ripped the curtain back, exposing the staggering double standard at the heart of the WNBA's officiating. The statistics are damning and impossible to ignore. By that point in the season, Caitlin Clark had been on the receiving end of an astonishing 17% of all flagrant fouls committed in the entire league. It's a number so disproportionate it defies coincidence and points directly to systematic targeting. Even more infuriating is the hypocrisy.
Yeah, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do.
Clark has been hit with technical fouls for showing the slightest bit of emotion, for slamming a ball in frustration, or for briefly questioning a call. Yet players who commit objectively flagrant, non-basketball plays against her often walk away with a simple foul or a meaningless technical. It's as if there are two different rule books, one for Caitlin Clark and one for everyone else. The officiating isn't just bad, it's negligent, and it has created an environment where aggression is implicitly encouraged.
Stop playing with this girl. And I'm telling you, the only reason Caitlin Clark have statues in the WNBA right now because she's white. It was dominated by black women in a black league that they want to mirror the NBA. But unfortunately, them white girls, they got an extra 3-point finger or something. Because this girl has done 565 games. She only played 45 games and she's one away from tying the WNBA record. WNBA record. This is her second season. And you put the numbers together, that's like 10 seasons. That girl did it in 10 seasons. That means she had one a season. Caitlin Clark is... When Caitlin Clark gets to 10 seasons, she's going to have 100 of these.
In the post-game press conference, while the media buzzed with questions about the drama, the cheap shots, and the ejection, Caitlin Clark tried to rise above it all. She had just led her team to a dominant win, securing a spot in the Commissioner's Cup Championship, yet all anyone wanted to talk about was the circus. With visible frustration, she shut them down. "You guys came for basketball. Let's talk about basketball," she said. "We're going to the Commissioner's Cup Championship. That's pretty exciting. Y'all want to talk about that?" Her words revealed a player exhausted by a narrative she never asked for.
He has changed our game in the best possible way in every way. And so just to be alongside of her and maybe relieve the pressure, being able to shoot and spread the court for her to go do her thing. She's still young, and I think that I've been taken under. Diana took me under her wing, and I've learned a lot from her. And now I hope to kind of do the same for Caitlin if she wants it. I just think the relationship piece is huge. And when you're trying to do something great, it takes everybody. And so I want her to go do her thing, and anything she needs from me, I'm going to be here. But again, I think that like just the competitor that I am, I'm fierce, I'm sassy. I stick up for my teammates, I stick up for myself.
She wants to be recognized for her historic talent, but is instead constantly forced to answer for the league's failure to control its players. Meanwhile, some in the media began pushing a disgusting narrative that Clark, a known competitor and occasional trash talker, somehow brings it on herself. It was a classic case of victim blaming, a pathetic attempt to justify unprofessional behavior, but no amount of trash talk ever justifies an eye poke or a blindside shove. While Clark tried to deflect, Sophie Cunningham leaned into her new role with zero apologies. After her ejection, she posted a photo of herself shrugging on social media, a clear, defiant message that she had no regrets. Days later, when asked about the incident, she doubled down. She placed the blame exactly where it belonged, on the officials. "I think the refs had a lot to do with that," she stated bluntly. "It was a build-up for a couple years now of them just not protecting the star player of the WNBA. She finished with a statement of pure, unwavering loyalty. "At the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do." There was no remorse, no backing down. She wasn't just a player who committed a hard foul. She was now the self-appointed enforcer, a teammate who understood that sometimes you have to send a message the league is too scared to send itself. She embraced the role, and the fans loved her even more for it. This was never just about a hard foul or a single game. Sophie Cunningham's ejection exposed a deep, uncomfortable truth about the WNBA. The league was gifted a transcendent talent, a player capable of securing its financial future for the next decade, and it has completely fumbled its responsibility to protect her. Whether out of incompetence or a desire to appease jealous veterans, the result is the same: a star player who needs a bodyguard just to get through a game safely. Cunningham's meteoric rise in popularity wasn't an anomaly, it was a referendum. It was millions of fans screaming that loyalty, courage, and standing up for a teammate matter more than the league's flawed authority. The WNBA may not have Caitlin Clark's back, but Sophie Cunningham does. And in the brutal world of professional sports, that alliance, forged in the heat of battle, might just be the only protection that truly matters.